Welcome to the Scandinavian Mind podcast, our weekly show about how technology is changing the creative industries. Today on the program, how to design furniture in the metaverse. We are revisiting a live talk with Gustav Winsth, a furniture designer who is exploring and pushing the boundaries for how to design using AR and VR technologies. In this conversation, we talk about Gustav's journey from working at the truck manufacturer Scania to becoming a leading designer on the Swedish design scene. His collaboration with Alexander LervikHow, how he's revolutionizing traditional prototyping and sketching processes, and we delve into Gustav's unique aesthetic approach. This conversation was recorded at Virtual Creatives Live, an event series we are doing in collaboration with Lynk Co. This was the second edition, which took place earlier this week in Stockholm, and the next edition is on February 15 next year at the Lynk Co showroom in Stockholm. Follow our newsletter not to miss out on that invite. My name is Konrad Olsson, editor-in-chief and founder of Scandinavian Mind, and here now, my conversation with Gustav Winsth. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Gustav, I never forget the first time I saw your works. It was at the furniture fair here in Stockholm at the, was it the Greenhouse exhibition?
Yeah.
Yeah, the kind of exhibition for up-and-comers. You really had this cool new type of aesthetics, which I really enjoyed. But having learned more about the way you work, it made me even more intrigued. So we've been covering your work in Scandinavian Mind, and we wanted to invite you here to talk about it.
Yeah.
But before we get into how you create your things, which we kind of show here in the background,
Exactly.
You have a different kind of starting point for a designer. You worked at Scania, which is this big truck manufacturer, I guess, in the south of Stockholm.
Yeah.
Talk about how that began.
Well, I intended to go into design from the get-go, but I had this idea of if you had the engineering degree as well, it would like boost you up a bit higher above the others. But I realized quite quickly, even though I read manufacturing or mechanical engineering and product development and design, you needed a higher degree of design to get into those kinds of work. So when I moved to Stockholm and they figured out that I also had a truck driving license, I was like picked up by Scania like that. Didn't really have a choice. But I worked there for 3 years, just doing like testing of the new trucks basically, and learned a lot, but I still wanted to go into further design, so I went from there to Beckman's School of Design and graduated 2021.
Was there anything that you learned at Scania that you brought with you in your design journey?
Absolutely. First and foremost, the VR part, which I'm here talking about today. When at Scania, because it's a huge company and they have production in like Brazil and they have like a lot of different areas where they're active, when they talk to each other about like many mechanical things, like things that can't be lost in translation, they had this room where they both went in, like one in Brazil and one in Stockholm or in Södertälje, and then they put on the goggles and then they can like pick out pieces from the truck and like point, this bolt right here needs to be changed or whatever. And that just got me thinking when I started going more into design that like this might be useful in this area as well, just to do collaborations or to like branch out of Stockholm or your neighbors and actually do collaborations with people abroad or stuff like that.
So this was actually something that technology, a tool that you brought with you into the design field. It was not sort of handed to you in the design field. Can you talk about that clash between the kind of the traditional way of creating a piece of furniture and your way of doing it?
Like the biggest clash is probably that the industry isn't really that prone on adapting. Like there's this way that you do it, and people are quite used to it and quite comfortable in it. So it's a big struggle for me to actually get to use the actual potential of this. Like, I use it every day for sketching and for like presenting and stuff like that, but the main goal is for manufacturers to realize the advantages of me sitting at home and them being at their location, whether it being in Småland or at like another country, and me being able to show my designs, and we can like talk about them in real time around the piece of furniture in like scale 1-to-1, which is way better than sending renders and then having a discussion about it over Teams, or actually going there, which is like both climate-wise and everything like that.
Right. So describe this process for a dummy who doesn't, you have no experience. You bring on the headset, you have these controls, and you go into some kind of software environment, and you start. That's what we're showing here, basically. Yeah. But talk about how does it work?
Well, like, it's like any CAD software. Like, you build stuff out of with like dots and lines which surfaces are dragged around. And I've been using SolidWorks since I was 14, so like more than half my age. And that is a great tool for doing very like strict design things. Always everything measured and everything perfect. But with these kinds of things, you can see like the little dots that you use to drag there. They're called NURBS, and that's another type of like 3D modeling, which is called ytmodellering, surface modeling, basically. So in using that, I can do a lot of more like organic shapes, and usually I do start with SolidWorks and I import the files in there, and then if I have to do something which is very flowy or like cushions or something that I need to experiment with, it's just the perfect place to be, because you have the real size of the piece of furniture that you're working on.
But the potential of actually collaborating in this kind of, forgive the term, metaverse environment where many people can kind of join from different fields. You're saying that the industry is not really there yet to adapt to these technologies. What has the experience been? Because now you're actually producing stuff for companies.
I think everyone is very interested in it, and especially like co-designers are popping up here and there. Like, people are actually starting to use it in the same line of business that I am in. But to like get over the threshold and get companies to actually buy a headset and then meet me in this meeting room and work with it like that. I haven't really gotten around to found a company that is willing to do that yet. But I'm working on them, slowly but surely.
So what are the benefits? We've talked before about sort of the benefits of prototyping. You can do that in a whole different fashion in the digital space.
Well, like, if you compare it to like physical prototyping, say I'm doing a collab with someone, and like the optimum circumstances, we are living next door to each other, and we also have the manufacturer next door to us, and we have a huge location, a fucking warehouse where we can do whatever, and we can go in there, we can draw up things, we can get any type of models in there for reference, and then we do hundreds of prototypes. Like, you hear it sounds crazy, but in the digital world this is like so easy. We can just like meet up in this meeting room where we can draw stuff, we can combine stuff, we can draw on the same thing at once without like getting in each other's way, and then you can invite the product development team from the manufacturer to just go in and have, like, from the get-go, in the beginning of the process. So overall, it's just you basically skip the first step of prototyping, because you already have the dimensions, you already have the feel of like the size and the use and everything like that, and you get rid of all the traveling, basically. Right.
I'm guessing there's another way of document the process as well. If you have physical prototypes, you can kind of see, A, B, C, D. This is how it progressed. How does that work in a digital environment? Do you save like versions of it?
Yeah, I do. It's usually just starting off with one, and then you copy it, and then you tweak it a little, and then you copy it again and tweak it a little. This is how you copy it, by the way. So I think there you can see like different versions of it, but it's not, usually that's what it looks like, that I just drag the one and then I changed a little bit.
Right, right.
But then again, like, companies are still very prone upon having these like really detailed sketches, and a mood board with a leaf and a little sunshine, and it visually it needs to look great, and this is still kind of rough. Right. So it's not that intriguing in the process to share those kinds of things, even though this is like video wise I think it's quite visually fun.
Oh, for sure. There's a whole lot of opportunity to create content around the product, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So talk about your aesthetics. That's one of the things that grabbed me with your work the first time I saw it. You did this like bookshelves, which was inspired by this, sneaker type aesthetics. I think anyone who looks at the works that you do, just going into your website, it's not this kind of white, clean, minimalistic Scandi type tradition that you work in. It's much more maximalistic. It's much more, pop culture or street culture. How would you describe your own aesthetic?
Kind of like that. No, but it's like I'm not really that. I didn't come from furniture design. I'm not a furniture geek that got into design school to make my contribution. I don't look at the old classics to remodel them in my way. I just take inspiration from what I'm inspired by, which is more like coming from mechanical engineering. It's the processes behind manufacturing. Like I can see a bead of welds and being like, that's nice, or just as a production method or anything like that, and then you spin on that. And also just like subcultures or fashion, or I think it's important to take inspiration from other places than what people before you have, and I think it's a good thing not to be too into the same field that you're in. Sure.
I mean, we're excited about it, and it seems like the industry is resonating with the industry as well. So talk about some of the collaborations and work that you have done with companies so far.
Well, right now I'm working on VR wise. I'm working with Alexander LervikHow, a renowned designer who contacted me after the fair because he saw the work that I did in VR, and he was he was very early on adapting on 3D modeling. So see, he did that. He did 3D printed his brain at one of the shows. I remember a few years back, maybe 10 years or so. Yeah. He did an MRI scan and then he 3D printed it and made it into a lamp. So he contacted me just because he thought it looked interesting. So that was a super experience for me because it was the first time that I actually collaborated with someone in VR. Even though he didn't know the program, we just met in that environment, and then we could discuss things, and I can build and he can just come in with pointers, and we can have a discussion about it. It was a good way of learning how that would work in the future, I guess. And also having someone that renowned telling me that this will change the game. That's a good testament to what it's actually capable of, I think.
And what can you say about the outcome of that collaboration? Can you?
It's going to be a digital world, basically, based on what we talked about, the design process of from the first prototype to the latest one. So we have a quite big space on the furniture fair this year where we exhibit 3 armchairs, which we've made, or which are the finished product of what we were able to do in this VR world. But we're also exhibiting the digital way there. So 3 chairs, 50 square meters, and then the rest is just filled with digital ghosts.
Exciting stuff. I'd like to I want to have you kind of reflect or maybe look in the crystal ball a little bit, because I mean what you're doing is obviously very concrete. You're designing stuff, it becomes a physical product. The opportunities for VR and AR, as it's been discussed a lot the past couple of years. We've seen companies like Meta, Facebook going into it. Apple just launched their headset which a lot of people are looking forward to. Where do you see this is going? I mean, you talked about collaborating. Are there other things you're excited about doing in these worlds?
Yeah, like just now they released the new version of the VR headset that I'm using, which has like this really great pass-through thing. So usually I'm in this world, like this endless landscape of gray, but now you're able to actually see your surroundings, and like I can sketch things and I can put them down on the floor and like visually get an idea of how they look in the environment.
Right.
So both for me to do stuff and get them in comparison to other pieces of furniture or other, well, surroundings is great.
Yeah.
But also like it opens up doors to using it in more of like spatial design, I guess. You can actually walk in an apartment and like put up shelf just by putting a block there, copying it down, still copying it, and then, you know, build these like walls or surfaces that aren't there, but when you're in this world or when you have these glasses on, you can really get a feel of the space on an entirely different level, or like compared to if you tape it on the floor or if you do a mock-up in paper or whatever the other options are.
Which you're doing yourself right now at home, right? Or,
yeah. I'm furiously trying to make a good solution for our living room, which is like I can't stop just doing new versions, but it's basically me with a VR headset in our living room, just like dragging out new walls and trying out this, and like if the kitchen eye wouldn't be here, could I just? And it's actually, as I said, like you get a feel of how it actually is, because the mind is crazy like that. It doesn't need to be there for you to actually get a good sense of it. And I got a view of that like last week when my son came up. He's 2.5 years old and he wanted to try. So I had these chairs that me and Lervik have been working on, like 3 of them, just standing in front of me, and he started pulling on my legs, so I just knew he would try. So he took them on, and he was like, it was crazy to see someone who doesn't really have a point of view of like what is reality and what isn't. Also probably terrifying for him that it's like ghost chairs surrounding him all the time. But he walked around them and inspected them in a way which he would if it was physical products. Right. Which was kind of fun to see, because if you give it to a person that knows better, like they would realize it and they would still try to like, what is this? But for him it was just, it was real enough to like go around and try to look under and everything like that, which says a lot, I think.
Is there a future where you only design for the digital worlds? I mean, you're still doing physical things, that's the kind of the end product. How do you see your work progressing in that regard?
I still feel like I want to do physical products. The opportunities to do things that are just meant for metaverse or like for a digital showroom or anything like that, it seems weird to me to design a chair not to sit on. But then again, maybe in the future, I don't know. Right now I think it's a great tool for me to use in the prototyping stage and then go on to do the physical product. But it all depends on what the future gives.
All right, got it. So, show's coming up in beginning of February, Design Week. You have your kitchen going on. Is there anything else on the horizon that you're excited about right now that you're testing or experimenting with?
It's a lot for February right now. Both the exhibition with Alexander LervikHow, and I have a product launch with another Swedish company as well on the furniture fair. So that's what I'm focusing on, and I have these other projects that are kind of in the air, but we'll see about them. Well,
we'll keep an eye on your career, and thank you so much for sharing your insights and for sharing so much inspiring work. Gustav Winsth, everybody. All right, that was my conversation with Gustav Winsth, recorded live at the Lynk Co showroom in Stockholm. You've been listening to the Scandinavian Mind podcast, and we are now on the home stretch for 2023. But don't worry, we have a lot of content to cover before we close out for the holidays, and bunch more planned for earlier next year. So we'll do just a short break during Christmas and New Year's, and I can't wait to share with you what we have in store. Make sure to follow our newsletter not to miss out on any upcoming content and events. Visit scandinavianmind.com/newsletter. Until next week, goodbye.